Hello everyone. I'm Dr. Abhash Jain. So today we'll be discussing our MRCP1 immunology. So this is the third session for immunology, right? And we will be continuing with the MCQs part. So let's discuss it. So you are reviewing a man who has had MLA tissue, who has had HLA tissue typing as a part of a work for organ donation. He is found to be HLA B51 positive on typing. Which one of the following diseases is most likely associated with HLA B51? Options are Addison's disease, Behçet syndrome, dermatitis herpetiformis, Graves' disease, and type 1 diabetes.
Behçet syndrome.
Right, doctor. Correct. So Behçet, the major histocompatibility complex, is a cluster of genes located on the short arm of chromosome 6. It codes for series of molecules known as HLA. HLA molecules are distributed throughout the body, and it is through differential HLA expression that cells are classified as self or non-self. Important association exists between certain HLA haplotypes and diseases. So Behçet syndrome is associated with HLA B51 positive, as are polycystic kidney disease and ulcerative colitis. Right. So all other stems mentioned in this question, dermatitis, herpetiformis, Graves, Addison's, and type 1 diabetes, are associated with HLA-D subtypes. So which one of the following is true concerning immunity to the viruses? IgA can offer protection at mucosal surface. Cytotoxic T cells are activated before natural killer cells during the course of infection. Viruses stimulate the non-immune cells that they infect to produce interferon gamma. Non-enveloped viruses are susceptible to damage by complement. Influenza virus can avoid antibody recognition by mutational change in its nucleocapsid protein. So which one of the following is true? Okay, let's see it. So the correct option is the IgA can offer protection at the mucosal surfaces. So IgA is the second most abundant immunoglobulin type in the circulation after IgG. So IgG is the most. Second is IgA. And is the most abundant in secretion, that is saliva, milk, respiratory, and GI secretions. So for MRCP, remember important association with IgA deficiency include autoimmune diseases such as celiac. So this is very important, celiac. And also a risk of anaphylactic reactions to blood products. So a 23-year-old man presents the follow-up in the microbiology clinic after a third attack of meningococcal meningitis. His maternal uncle and brother both died of serious bacterial infection. He is found on further investigation to have a C3 deficiency. That is an alternative complement pathway, which is thought to account for the recurrent meningococcal infections. Which one of the following correctly describes the mode of inheritance of C3 deficiency? Autosomal dominant, autosomal recessive, chromosomal non-disjunction, X-linked dominant, X-linked recessive. So these you have to remember. So the mode of inheritance is autosomal recessive. So C3 deficiency is inherited in autosomal recessive manner. The majority of the complement deficiencies are inherited in autosomal recessive fashion. The exception being property deficiency, which is usually described as having an X-linked inheritance pattern. So the deficiency of both the classical and alternate complement pathways are well described. C1 and C4 deficiency is strongly associated with development of SLE. And deficiency of alternate pathways such as C3, C5 associated with increased risk of recurrent pyogenic infection. Like we read about meningitis recently, previous question, and C1, C4 with a development of SLE. So a 21-year-old female with SLE, which one of the following investigation statement is true? Which is true out of these? A C-reactive protein is typically modest in non-infected patients with active disease. Rheumatoid factor is positive in less than 5%. Neutropenia is more common than lymphopenia. The low-dose OCP and hormone replacement therapy are contraindicated. Pulmonary fibrosis is common disease complication. So the correct answer here is A, because the C-reactive protein is typically modest in non-infective patient with active disease. Suppose a patient of SLE, suddenly the CRP increases. So in SLE patient, it suggests infection. Otherwise, if the only SLE is there and the SLE disease itself is active, then the CRP will not be much increased, or it can be normal. So a C-reactive protein is typically modest in non-infective patient with active disease. The pattern of inflammatory marker elevation in SLE is unusual. So it is some unusual. With differential elevation in the ESR and CRP observed, elevation of ESR without any CRP rise is typical of SLE. To the extent that when a patient with SLE is noted to have a CRP elevation, this should prompt investigation for coexistent infective process. The other options serve as useful reminders about SLE, right? Which one of the following increases in response to injury, infection, or systemic inflammation? Albumin, ferritin, magnesium, transferrin, zinc as a marker of inflammation. Increase. Okay, so the correct answer is ferritin. Ferritin is an example of acute phase protein which rises in response to injury, infection, or systemic inflammation. Other examples of acute phase proteins that increases are CRP, serum amyloid A protein, and hepcidin. So these are the few acute phase proteins which you have to remember. Following appropriate emergency management, which one of the following blood tests should subsequently best help in making the diagnosis of anaphylaxis? C1q, C3, C4, histamine, and mast cell tryptase. Okay, it is also a easy one you have to remember. So the correct answer is tryptase. So mast cell tryptase is transiently raised in anaphylactoid reaction, with peak levels occurring approximately 1 hour after onset. The assay, however, is not widely available and processing of samples takes some time. For this reason, tryptase is useful in determining if the anaphylactic event has occurred, but does not impact on immediate management. A 21-year-old with allergy to peanut is admitted as an emergency after eating a shop-bought pastry. He has suffered an anaphylactic reaction and did not have his adrenaline auto-injector pen with him. On examination, he has hives-like rash affecting his upper body with a stridor and respiratory rate of 28 breaths per minute. His oxygen saturation is only 93% on 10 liters oxygen and his BP is 100/60 with a pulse of 105 beats per minute. You plan to give him adrenaline. Which one of the following is the most appropriate route of administration? IM, intranasal, intravenous, nebulized, subcutaneous. So it's again a very common question asked. The correct answer is intramuscular. So adrenaline should always be given intramuscular, normally in the thigh, as it thought to have the most predictable profile with respect to rate of absorption and therefore its clinical effect. So even if the patient has its IV line or there is a route for giving IV, but we will give adrenaline intramuscular.